Standing before a towering, half-finished stone structure, you can't help but feel a strange mix of awe and curiosity. The sheer scale of the work suggests ambition beyond imagination, yet something stopped it, leaving a silent, unfinished masterpiece for future generations to ponder. Why would ancient builders pour so much effort into these colossal projects, only to abandon them midway? Were they hindered by natural forces, political upheaval, or something even more mysterious? In this video, we'll uncover the fascinating world of unfinished megaliths, exploring the theories, historical clues, and lingering questions behind these enigmatic giants. From forgotten tools to celestial alignments, prepare to uncover the secrets left behind in stone. Megaliths, even the word itself, evokes a sense of grandeur and mystery. At its core, a megalith simply refers to a structure made of large stones, but these creations are anything but simple. What sets megaliths apart is their colossal scale and the sheer ingenuity required to construct them, often without the machinery or tools we rely on today. Take Stonehenge, for example, a prehistoric marvel in England with its massive stones arranged in a precise circular pattern, or the pyramids of Giza in Egypt, towering over the desert as timeless monuments to human ambition and engineering prowess. These completed wonders inspire admiration for their creators' civilizations that somehow moved and shaped multi-ton stones with remarkable precision, long before modern technology existed. To grasp the magnitude of these achievements, consider the logistics alone. Moving a single stone weighing tens, sometimes hundreds of tons would require coordination and manpower on a scale that's difficult to imagine today. Ancient builders likely used a combination of sledges, wooden rollers, ramps, and sheer human determination to transport these massive blocks, often across great distances. Quarries located miles away would supply the raw materials, while the cutting and shaping of the stones demanded incredible skill and rudimentary tools like copper chisels, ropes, and levers. Add to this the need for precise planning, astronomical alignment, and architectural insight, and it becomes clear that megalithic structures were more than just practical constructions. They were feats of art, science, and culture. Yet, for every Stonehenge or Great Pyramid completed, there are those projects that were mysteriously abandoned. These unfinished megaliths scattered across the globe form a separate and equally intriguing category of historical mystery. One striking example is the infamous Stone of the Pregnant Woman in Baalbek, Lebanon, a massive monolith weighing over 1,000 tons, left partially cut and never transported to its intended destination. Then there's the enigmatic Yangshan Quarry in China, where enormous stone pieces intended for an imperial mausoleum lie incomplete, as if frozen in time. These unfinished works make us pause and ask, why? What could have possibly interrupted these plans? Was it a lack of resources, shifts in political leadership, natural disasters, or perhaps something more unexpected? Unfinished megaliths bridge the gap between human ambition and the challenges of reality. They tell a story of bold ideas constrained by the limits of ancient technology and the unpredictability of life in centuries past. And yet, they also hint at deeper cultural and historical significance. After all, these projects weren't just about moving stones. They were expressions of power, spirituality, and identity. Moving forward, we'll dive into the historical importance of these monumental projects and explore what they reveal about the societies that embarked on, but ultimately abandoned them. To truly understand the enigma of unfinished megaliths, we must first look at the historical context of megalith construction. Across ancient civilizations, these colossal structures were far more than displays of engineering prowess. They were deeply tied to the cultural, spiritual, and political lives of the societies that built them. From the arid deserts of Egypt to the windswept Salisbury Plain in England and the mountainous regions of South America, megaliths served as monuments to belief systems, power structures, and communal identity. Take ancient Egypt, for example. The pyramids of Giza, arguably the most iconic megalithic structures in history, were far more than imposing tombs for the pharaohs. These monuments were physical manifestations of divine authority, symbolizing the rulers' connection to the gods and their journey to the afterlife. The immense effort required to construct these pyramids, employing thousands of workers over decades, was a testament to the centralized power of the state and the role of religion in fostering unity. Every precisely cut limestone block served a purpose, aligning with religious principles and astronomical events, ensuring that these structures connected the heavens and the earth. Yet not all of Egypt's projects were completed. Massive obelisks meant to stand as symbols of triumph and devotion were sometimes left in the quarries, as we'll explore later. Similarly, in the windswept fields of England, the builders of Stonehenge appear to have viewed their work as much more than just a collection of massive stones. Evidence suggests the site served as a center for celestial observation, religious ceremonies, and possibly even as a burial ground. The alignment of the stones with the solstices indicates an advanced understanding of astronomy, while the massive scale of the construction hints at the importance of community. Constructing Stonehenge required not only skilled labor but also collective effort, likely involving hundreds, if not thousands, of people over generations. It was an undertaking that united groups in shared purpose and underscored the significance of the cosmos in their worldview. Turning our gaze to the Andes, we find the breathtaking work of the Inca civilization, where sites like Ollantaytambo and Sacsayhuaman stand as testaments to the ingenuity of ancient builders. The Incas' mastery of stonework is evident in the way massive stones were shaped to fit together seamlessly without the need for mortar. These megalithic constructions often had dual purposes, practical and spiritual. Temples and terraces not only served religious rites but also reinforced the authority of the empire. However, even here, some projects were mysteriously abandoned, leaving behind unfinished stones that seemed to defy modern tools and techniques. In all these cultures, the construction of megaliths wasn't just about creating physical structures. It was an expression of identity, devotion, and power. These structures were meant to endure, standing as eternal markers of their creator's significance. But the abandonment of such projects represents more than unfinished work. It points to moments of disruption. The reasons could range from shifts in religious beliefs or political instability to sudden disasters or even changes in climate. Each unfinished megalith offers a glimpse into the uncertainties and challenges these societies faced. As we continue, we'll explore some of the most perplexing examples of unfinished megaliths, delving into the mysteries behind why these ambitious projects were left incomplete. From the massive stones of Baalbek to the grandeur frozen in Yangshan Quarry, these relics tell stories of halted dreams and unanswered questions. What could have stopped the hands of these ancient builders? Let's uncover the possibilities. Let's take a closer look at some of the most famous unfinished megaliths monuments that give us extraordinary glimpses into the minds and techniques of ancient builders, yet leave us with more questions than answers. These structures, though incomplete, still reveal a staggering level of ambition and craftsmanship, frozen in time for reasons that remain shrouded in mystery. First, we travel to Egypt and the site of the Aswan Obelisk. Located in an ancient quarry, this massive obelisk is perhaps the largest single stone ever attempted by human hands. If completed, it would have stood at an astonishing 120 feet tall and weighed over 1,200 tons. The obelisk was intended to be a towering symbol of Egyptian power and devotion to the gods, but its construction was halted mid-process. Why a massive crack appeared in the granite during its carving, rendering the stone structurally unsound, but the real puzzle is the effort behind it. Ancient Egyptians used tools of copper and stone to shape granite, one of the hardest types of rock. Marks from chisels still remain etched into the surface, evidence of countless hours of labor. Yet with all their experience in cutting and transporting colossal stones, why did they plan something so ambitious that one small flaw could derail years of work? The Aswan Obelisk raises questions not only about ancient engineering, but also about the decision-making and risk-taking of its creators. Next, we move to Lebanon, where the megalithic marvels of Baalbek await. Known for its Roman-era temples, Baalbek also contains some of the largest stone blocks ever quarried, including the famous Stone of the Pregnant Woman. This single massive stone, weighing an estimated 1,000 tons, lies partially cut and abandoned at the quarry, only a short distance from the temple complex it was meant to join. Even more astonishing, an even larger stone estimated at 1,600 tons was discovered nearby, likewise left in place. The incompleteness of these stones is baffling. What kind of engineering knowledge and manpower would have been required to move such enormous blocks? Were the builders attempting to push the limits of their capabilities, or was there some sudden event, such as a natural disaster, a societal collapse, or even the death of a key leader, that brought the work to a halt? The tools and techniques used to work these stones remain unclear, leaving archaeologists to speculate endlessly over how such massive ambitions were brought to a standstill. Finally, let's visit the unfinished temple of Segesta in Sicily. This ancient Greek structure, dating back to the 5th century BCE, stands as a hauntingly beautiful example of abandoned ambition. The temple was meant to be a grand Doric structure with towering columns and a rectangular foundation typical of Greek temples. However, construction suddenly stopped, leaving the structure with the columns only partially completed and no roof ever built. Curiously, the base and much of the exterior give the impression of a finished building, but upon closer inspection, the incompletion becomes obvious. Historians believe the temple might have been abandoned due to political conflict between Greek settlers and local Sicilian tribes. Others suggest that funding for the project simply ran out. Whatever the cause, the partially finished temple remains an archaeological treasure, a snapshot of ancient construction frozen mid-step. What's striking about all these examples is the evidence left behind: unfinished carvings, abandoned tools, and partially built foundations that seem to whisper stories of unrealized dreams. The Aswan Obelisk, the Baalbek stones, and the Segesta temple are far from isolated cases. They reflect a pattern across the ancient world, where even the most ambitious plans were sometimes derailed. But why? What could have caused civilizations with such advanced engineering and organizational skills to leave these projects behind? Could it have been sudden environmental changes, such as earthquakes or resource depletion, that disrupted their work? Or perhaps shifting priorities, political upheaval, or war redirected focus away from these grand designs? Some even suggest that these projects may have been abandoned due to changes in religious practices or leadership, where the original purpose of the structures lost its relevance. As we explore these theories, we'll uncover the deeper forces that likely caused ancient builders to walk away, leaving behind some of the most fascinating mysteries of our past. When it comes to the question of why ancient builders abandoned some of their most ambitious megalithic projects, natural disasters are one of the most compelling explanations. Imagine a group of workers carving a massive stone structure, their efforts carefully aligned with years of planning and countless resources. Then, without warning, the ground beneath them shakes violently, or a nearby river floods its banks, washing away their tools, supplies, and even their hopes of continuing. Catastrophic natural events like earthquakes, floods, and volcanic eruptions could have been devastating interruptions, forcing entire civilizations to abandon their grandest projects. One striking example comes from the unfinished obelisk in Egypt's Aswan Quarry. While the primary reason for its abandonment is the crack that developed during carving, some researchers have suggested that seismic activity in the area may have played a role. Egypt is no stranger to earthquakes, and repeated minor quakes could have subtly undermined the integrity of stone formations over time. The sheer size of the obelisk, over 1,200 tons, meant that any structural flaw, whether from carving mishaps or geological shifts, would have been enough to halt construction entirely. Another compelling case lies in the ancient city of Baalbek in Lebanon. While the massive stones of the so-called Stone of the Pregnant Woman and others remain unfinished, some geological evidence hints at tectonic shifts in the region. Baalbek sits near several fault lines, and the area has experienced numerous earthquakes throughout history. It's possible that an earthquake damaged not only the quarry site, but also the infrastructure needed to transport these massive stones to their final destination. If the builders lost crucial ramps or roads or faced unstable ground conditions due to tremors, their ability to move forward could have been completely compromised. And then there's the volcanic destruction that may have interrupted megalithic construction in other parts of the world. For instance, the once thriving Minoan civilization on the island of Crete suffered devastating consequences from the eruption of Thera, modern-day Santorini, around 1600 BC. While no specific megalithic project has been tied to this event, the eruption released massive amounts of ash and triggered tsunami-like waves, destroying coastal settlements and disrupting the region's infrastructure. If an event of this magnitude struck a civilization in the middle of a major construction project, it's easy to see how priorities would have shifted from building temples to sheer survival. Entire labor forces may have been scattered, resources depleted, and leadership destabilized, leaving monumental projects to remain forever unfinished. Even less dramatic natural disasters, such as prolonged droughts or sudden floods, could have had a similar effect. Construction projects required enormous amounts of resources, materials, manpower, and food to sustain the workers. A severe flood could wipe out farmland or storage supplies, while excessive drought could lead to famine, diverting all available energy to sustaining life instead of completing a megalithic masterpiece. Geological studies in regions that boast unfinished megaliths sometimes reveal changes in sediment layers or water flow, suggesting environmental shifts that might have directly impacted ancient societies. Natural disasters didn't just interrupt construction, they disrupted entire ways of life. A major catastrophe could destabilize a ruling authority, forcing workers and builders to abandon their projects, either by fleeing to survive or being reassigned to deal with more immediate need. Sudden population loss from such disasters also meant fewer hands to lift, carve, and transport the massive stones, and fewer people to uphold the vision of the original builders. For these reasons, nature's unpredictability looms as one of the strongest reasons behind the abrupt halting of these ambitious megalithic endeavors. But of course, natural disasters are only part of the story. Not all abandoned projects can be traced back to the forces of nature. Sometimes it was the limits of human ability or organization that brought these efforts to a stop. What happens when ambition outpaces resources, technology, or the capacity of a society? In the next part of our journey, we'll explore how the boundaries of human effort and ingenuity may have played just as significant a role in leaving these ancient wonders incomplete. Another compelling theory for the abandonment of ancient megalithic projects lies in the volatile nature of political landscapes and the shadow of warfare. Imagine a society on the brink of completing a monumental structure, a masterpiece intended to inspire awe and cement their legacy for generations. Suddenly, a change in leadership or the arrival of an invading army shatters that vision. Resources are redirected, priorities shift, and projects once seen as vital are relegated to the background or abandoned altogether. History is full of examples where political instability and conflict likely played a pivotal role in leaving these grand constructions incomplete. Take, for instance, the unfinished temple at Segesta in Sicily. As mentioned earlier, this grand Doric temple was abandoned partway through construction, leaving its columns incomplete and its roof never built. Scholars suggest that political conflict may have been the culprit. During the 5th century BCE, the Elymians, Segesta's builders, were embroiled in ongoing tensions with the neighboring Greek city-state of Selinus. With hostilities escalating into full-blown war, the resources and labor needed to complete the temple may have been redirected toward defense and military efforts. In times of conflict, even the most ambitious cultural projects often lose their importance when survival takes precedence. The temple stands today as a haunting reminder of how political turmoil can interrupt even the most grandiose plans. Political upheaval doesn't always stem from external threats, it can also arise from internal struggles. When leadership changes unexpectedly, whether due to a ruler's death, rebellion, or shifts in dynastic power, large-scale projects often suffer. Ancient Egypt provides another intriguing example. The unfinished obelisks found in the quarries near Aswan may have been abandoned not only because of structural flaws but also due to changing priorities under new leadership. Historically, Egyptian rulers used monumental constructions to demonstrate their divine authority and solidify their legacy. But when a pharaoh died or was overthrown, their successor might abandon works tied to the previous regime, redirecting efforts to projects that aligned with their own vision of power. The abrupt halt of such works reflects how political instability could leave these massive undertakings stranded in a state of limbo. Then there's the case of the Inca civilization, where unfinished megalithic sites such as Ollantaytambo and Sacsayhuaman in Peru may have suffered the impact of Spanish conquest in the 16th century. The arrival of European forces disrupted the Inca Empire on every level, from political control to cultural practices. The monumental stonework at these sites, which had been painstakingly crafted for religious and ceremonial purposes, suddenly became irrelevant in the face of invasion. Resources were likely diverted to mount resistance, and eventually the builders themselves were displaced or even decimated by war and disease. These sites now stand as poignant reminders of a civilization whose remarkable craftsmanship was cut short by external conflict. Even without direct invasion, economic collapse often follows political unrest, leading to a ripple effect that halts ambitious construction projects. Grand megalithic undertakings required not only immense manpower but also a steady flow of resources, such as food supplies for workers, funding for tools, and the infrastructure to transport building materials. When wars drained a civilization's coffers or disrupted trade routes, the resources underpinning these projects would quickly dry up. The diminishing of a society's wealth and stability often meant that monumental constructions, once symbols of pride and power, would be deemed non-essential in an age where basic survival became the priority. What all these examples highlight is how deeply interconnected politics, economy, and resource management were when it came to megalith construction. These massive projects weren't just architectural feats, they were reflections of a civilization's stability, prosperity, and ambition. But when that stability was threatened by conflict or leadership changes, the cracks appeared. Just like a stone abandoned mid-carving, these projects were left incomplete, silent witnesses to the upheaval that rendered them irrelevant. But political and military challenges aren't the only explanations for why ancient builders walked away. Sometimes the problem wasn't external at all, it was the sheer difficulty of the task at hand. As we explore further, we'll turn our attention to the practical challenges that may have stopped these projects in their tracks, from technological limitations to logistical nightmares that even the most resourceful civilizations couldn't overcome. While natural disasters and political upheaval offer compelling explanations for the abandonment of ancient megalith projects, they are only part of the story. The sheer practical challenges involved in creating these monumental structures cannot be overlooked. Working with stones weighing tens, hundreds, or even thousands of tons required not only physical strength but extraordinary levels of planning, precision, and ingenuity. With ancient tools and techniques, the margin for error was razor-thin, and even the smallest miscalculation could spell the end of a project that had already consumed years of effort. Let's begin with the basic challenge. The tools available at the time were, by today's standards, incredibly primitive. For instance, in ancient Egypt, granite blocks used in obelisks and temples were shaped with copper tools and stone hammers. Copper, a relatively soft metal, struggled to keep pace with the hardness of granite, a material that challenges even modern steel tools. The repetitive chiseling required to carve these massive stones demanded not just extraordinary patience but also enormous manpower. Marks left on unfinished megaliths such as the Aswan Obelisk reveal the labor-intensive process. A single block could take months or even years to extract and shape, meaning any error, natural or human, during this painstaking process could result in abandonment. The frustration of seeing work undone by a crack or misalignment must have been immense for ancient builders. The challenge didn't end with shaping the stones. Once carved, megaliths needed to be transported, often over long distances, to their final destination. Experts believe techniques involved sledges, wooden rollers, and lubricating materials like wet sand to reduce friction. But these methods were limited by terrain. Moving massive blocks through deserts, over mountains, or across rivers required not only brute force but also innovative engineering solutions to stabilize and balance the load. For instance, the stones used for Stonehenge were transported from quarries nearly 150 miles away, a staggering feat even by today's standards. The physical effort needed to move these stones, combined with the logistical challenge of coordinating large workforces, was immense. If just one stage of this process failed, say a ramp collapsed or a sledge broke under the strain, the whole enterprise could grind to a halt. Consider the unfinished works at Yangshan Quarry in China. Here, efforts to carve massive stone blocks for an imperial mausoleum were abandoned, leaving behind monolithic slabs that weigh over 16,000 tons. Experts have debated whether it was technical limitations or logistical hurdles that led to the abandonment. It's possible the builders overestimated their ability to move these blocks from the mountainside quarry to the intended site. Despite their advanced planning, they may have realized midway through the project that even the most brilliant engineering techniques available at the time couldn't overcome the sheer weight of the stone. This raises a fascinating point. Ancient builders often worked on the very edge of their technological capabilities, and sometimes they pushed beyond what was realistically achievable. Even when transportation succeeded, erecting these stones presented its own set of challenges. Precision was critical. For example, aligning the giant stones of Stonehenge to match celestial events required an advanced understanding of geometry and astronomy. Yet, working on such a large scale, even slight errors in measurement or leveling could create insurmountable problems. To add another layer of complexity, these projects often spanned multiple generations. If knowledge, techniques, or resources were lost along the way, whether due to a shift in leadership, economic hardship, or social changes, continuing the project might simply have become impossible. Ultimately, the abandonment of these megalithic projects may reflect the limits of human ambition, meeting the constraints of ancient technology and planning. These builders were tackling problems on an unprecedented scale, often without the tools or infrastructure to fully realize their visions, and yet their attempts still leave us in awe even when incomplete. But could these logistical and technological struggles have been exacerbated by unforeseen social factors? What role did shifts in labor, resources, or priorities play in abandoning such monumental efforts? In the next section, we'll explore how societal changes, whether economic, cultural, or resource-based, may have contributed to leaving these extraordinary projects unfinished. Another fascinating factor that may have contributed to the abandonment of megalithic projects is the evolution of beliefs and cultural priorities. These massive structures were not just feats of engineering. They were deeply rooted in the spiritual and cultural fabric of the societies that built them. But what happens when that fabric starts to change? History is full of examples where shifts in religious views, leadership, or societal values rendered once important monuments irrelevant. As cultures evolved, the meanings attached to these grand projects may have faded, leaving them to be forgotten or abandoned entirely. Let's start with religious and spiritual significance. Take the example of Stonehenge, a site that's widely believed to have served a variety of ceremonial purposes, including astronomical observation and rituals tied to the changing seasons. While its early phases were constructed with immense effort, evidence suggests that later additions to the site became less ambitious as time went on. The Grand Sarsen stones, for example, were erected after the initial smaller blue stones were already in place, but over time, activity at the site waned, eventually ceasing altogether. Some archaeologists theorize that this decline reflects a shift in the spiritual beliefs of the people who built it. Perhaps the rituals once tied to the stones lost their relevance, or maybe a new set of leaders introduced different practices, focusing resources elsewhere. This gradual loss of interest is a powerful reminder that monumental construction often depended on societal consensus, and once that consensus changed, the projects may have ground to a halt. Shifting leadership also played a key role in halting megalithic ambitions. Monumental structures often reflected the vision of a single ruler or ruling class. In ancient Egypt, pharaohs commissioned vast projects like pyramids and obelisks to demonstrate their divine authority and ensure their legacy. But when a pharaoh died, their successor might reprioritize these efforts, either abandoning ongoing works or channeling resources into new projects that aligned with their own rule. The unfinished pyramid of Pharaoh Sekhemkhet is a clear example. Originally intended to rival the grandeur of Djoser's step pyramid, construction stopped abruptly after Sekhemkhet's short reign ended. Similarly, abandoned obelisks in Aswan suggest that when regimes changed, the symbolic importance of these monuments often faded, leaving them half-completed and forgotten. Cultural priorities also shifted in response to changing societal needs. In the Andes, the Inca civilization was known for its stunningly precise stonework, as seen in sites like Machu Picchu and Sacsayhuaman. However, unfinished stone structures in places such as Ollantaytambo suggest that construction was interrupted not only by the arrival of Spanish conquistadors, but also by changing priorities within the empire itself. As the Inca expanded their territory and faced increasing demands to manage a sprawling population, they may have shifted their focus from ceremonial construction to practical infrastructure, such as roads and agricultural terraces. This redirection of resources highlights how cultural and political pressures could deprioritize monument building, even before external forces like invasion came into play. Archaeological evidence also hints at societies gradually stepping away from monumental construction as their cultures evolved. At Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey, one of the world's oldest known megalithic sites, researchers have discovered intricate stone circles that predate agriculture itself. However, over time, activity at the site declined, and instead of continuing to build, people began to bury the stone circles. Some suggest this may have coincided with the advent of farming and the resulting societal shift toward more localized, practical lifestyles. As communities settled and focused on cultivating land, the need for large communal ceremonial centers may have diminished, making these projects feel less relevant in a rapidly changing world. Ultimately, the abandonment of megalithic projects often mirrored the ebb and flow of a society's values. What was once a symbol of spiritual devotion or political power could quickly lose its significance as new leaders, new ideas, or new priorities emerged. These shifting cultural currents remind us that monuments are never just physical structures, they are reflections of the people and beliefs behind them. And when those beliefs evolve, the monuments they inspired are sometimes left behind, unfinished and forgotten. But could there be even more unconventional reasons behind these abandoned projects? In the next section, we'll explore some of the more mysterious and speculative theories that might help explain why these monumental works came to a sudden halt. From lost technologies to myths of ancient catastrophes, the possibilities only grow more intriguing. Throughout history, where logic and evidence fail to explain the mysteries of unfinished megaliths, the human imagination has stepped in to fill the gaps with captivating and unconventional theories. From whispers of celestial messages to tales of curses and even speculation about extraterrestrial interventions, these ideas may stray far from the scientific realm, but they continue to fascinate and ignite curiosity. Why were these grand projects abandoned? For some, the answer lies not in the hands of mortals, but in forces beyond our comprehension. One of the most enduring speculative theories centers around celestial alignments. Megalithic structures, both finished and incomplete, often display intricate connections to astronomical events. Stonehenge, for example, is famously aligned with the solstices, leading many to believe it served as an ancient observatory or a site for sun worship rituals. Similarly, the positioning of the pyramids of Giza is thought to correlate with the Orion constellation, reflecting a cosmic significance that guided their construction. Now consider the unfinished work stones left in quarries or incomplete mid-transport. Some theorists propose that these projects were halted not due to human limitations, but because their alignment to celestial bodies had been disrupted or was deemed incorrect. Perhaps an unforeseen shift in the skies or a perceived omen convinced ancient builders to abandon their efforts entirely. While there is no concrete evidence to confirm such beliefs, the idea that ancient civilizations might have stopped work due to cosmic influences resonates with those who view these structures as profound connections between humanity and the universe. Then there are the myths of curses, a staple in the lore surrounding some abandoned megaliths. In Egypt, tales of curses protecting tombs and sacred sites are as old as the structures themselves. It's not hard to imagine how similar beliefs might have arisen around unfinished projects like the Aswan Obelisk. Were these sites abandoned because of an ominous event, interpreted as a divine message to halt construction? Stories passed down through generations often speak of workers falling ill, strange natural phenomena, or conflicts breaking out suddenly, all attributed to the wrath of the gods or spirits tied to the site. In some cases, the myth of a curse may have even served as a practical explanation for why a project wasn't completed, helping to preserve the site's sacredness in the eyes of later generations. But no discussion of unconventional theories would be complete without addressing one of the most controversial ideas: extraterrestrial involvement. The precision and ambition of megalithic construction have led some to question whether ancient civilizations might have received assistance from beings beyond Earth. How else, they argue, could societies without advanced machinery quarry, shape, and transport stones weighing hundreds or thousands of tons? unfinished sites like the massive stones at Baalbek or the Yangshan Quarry often fuel these speculations. Advocates of this theory suggest that these projects were abandoned because the extraterrestrial assistance was withdrawn, leaving human builders unable to complete the task on their own. While mainstream archaeology provides logical explanations like human ingenuity, clever engineering, and sheer manpower, the allure of extraterrestrial theories persists, particularly for those captivated by the idea of ancient civilizations interacting with advanced technologies. Another layer of mysticism comes from the folklore surrounding specific sites. In some cultures, abandoned megaliths are seen as the work of giants, gods, or other supernatural beings. In Ireland, for instance, local legends often attribute megalithic structures to the mythical race of giants known as the Fomorians. Similarly, in Japan, folklore around the unfinished stoneworks of the Yangshan Quarry ties them to divine beings, suggesting the rocks were placed there by gods before being suddenly abandoned. These stories, while fantastical, offer a fascinating glimpse into how communities made sense of these enigmatic monuments in ways that reflected their cultural beliefs and values. Of course, none of these speculative theories hold up under scientific scrutiny. There is no evidence of extraterrestrial involvement, curses, or celestial misalignment halting construction. But their persistence in the public imagination reveals something profound, an innate human desire to connect these extraordinary creations to something greater. Out of unfinished stone emerges a sense of mystery, inviting us to wonder not only about the past but about forces larger than ourselves. As compelling as these ideas may be, the reality is that these sites, whether abandoned for practical or mysterious reasons, face new challenges today. From environmental factors to human activity, preserving these wonders has become a modern-day struggle in its own right. In the next section, we'll explore the practical difficulties of safeguarding these megaliths and ensuring their stories endure for generations to come. Unfinished megaliths may seem like incomplete chapters in the story of ancient civilizations, but in many ways they are just as significant as their finished counterparts, perhaps even more so. In the modern era, these abandoned structures continue to intrigue us, drawing archaeologists, historians, and tourists to their sites year after year. Their incomplete nature tells us more than just why they weren't finished. They offer a window into the ambitions, challenges, and limitations of the people who built them, bridging the gap between the past and the present in a way that inspires endless curiosity. For archaeologists, unfinished megaliths are invaluable. They provide rare, unfiltered glimpses into ancient construction techniques and project management. At sites like the Aswan Obelisk in Egypt or the Yangshan Quarry in China, we can actually see the stages of the carving process, from the initial outlines chiseled into the stone to the partially removed blocks. These snapshots in time reveal the tools used by ancient builders, the strategies they employed, and the sheer effort involved in these monumental tasks. Studying these sites helps historians reconstruct not only the physical workflows, but also the organizational systems required to mobilize vast labor forces. For instance, unfinished elements of Stonehenge suggest that large groups of workers were engaged in transporting stones over long distances before the overall vision of the site shifted. These traces left behind tool marks, abandoned ramps, and half-carved surfaces give us clues about how ancient people managed to tackle seemingly insurmountable projects, offering lessons in ingenuity and perseverance. But beyond the scientific value, unfinished megaliths possess an almost mythical allure that continues to captivate modern audiences. Visitors often describe standing before these sites as a humbling experience. There's something profoundly human about seeing a massive, incomplete stone structure. The ambition is palpable, but so are the struggles. It reminds us that even the most advanced ancient civilizations faced setbacks, whether from natural disasters, resource shortages, or societal shifts. This mix of grandeur and vulnerability resonates with us on a deep level, reminding us of our own fragility and potential. For many, these sites hold an enigmatic quality, a sense that they are not just physical monuments but symbols of the eternal human desire to create and to leave a lasting mark. And indeed, their preservation has become a critical issue in the modern age. Many of these unfinished megaliths, exposed to the elements for centuries, are deteriorating faster than ever due to climate change, pollution, and human activity. Tourists visiting these sites can unintentionally cause damage, whether by climbing on stones or simply trampling the surrounding ground. At the same time, urbanization threatens to encroach on historical zones, putting some of these sites at risk of disappearing altogether. Preservation efforts have sparked heated debates in the scientific and cultural communities. Should we restore these unfinished works to reveal what they might have looked like if completed, or should we leave them as they are to honor their status as historical artifacts frozen in time? Some argue that restoration would risk erasing valuable clues about ancient construction techniques, while others believe completing them could help better communicate their intended grandeur to modern audiences. What makes these unfinished megaliths truly remarkable is the way they transcend their physical form to symbolize broader themes of ambition, resilience, and the fragility of human endeavors. They stand as reminders of the boldness of ancient builders who dared to dream on an almost cosmic scale, as well as the forces both natural and man-made that brought those dreams to a halt. In their incompleteness, they invite us to reflect not just on the accomplishments of the past, but on the challenges we face today as we strive to preserve our heritage and push the boundaries of our own ambitions. As we contemplate these silent giants, one thing becomes clear: unfinished megaliths are more than relics of history. They are timeless symbols of the human spirit, embodying both our ability to envision greatness and our vulnerability to forces beyond our control. And in that sense, their story is as relevant now as it was thousands of years ago. Unfinished megaliths, though incomplete, hold an astonishing wealth of insight into the societies that conceived them. They are more than just remnants of the past. They are open books, waiting to be read by those who wish to understand the priorities, values, and challenges of ancient civilizations. These monumental projects were not just about quarrying and stacking stones. They were deeply intertwined with the social, spiritual, and economic fabric of their creators. And while their incomplete state may seem like a failure, it tells us just as much, if not more, about the human experience as the finished wonders of the world. First and foremost, unfinished megaliths reveal the overwhelming ambition of ancient societies. These projects were envisioned on a scale that was meant to endure for centuries, even millennia. They were monuments to belief systems, authority, and cultural identity, and their very existence reflects the willingness of ancient builders to push the limits of their knowledge and technology. However, their incomplete state also reminds us of the fragility of these endeavors. Even the most organized civilizations, with their vast labor forces and intricate planning, were at the mercy of natural disasters, resource shortages, and societal upheavals. The abandoned obelisks of Aswan, for instance, speak to the risks of taking on truly monumental projects. A crack in the stone, perhaps caused by a single misstep or geological weakness, could bring an entire vision to a grinding halt. But these unfinished projects also highlight the resilience of the societies behind them. Despite their challenges, the determination it took to attempt such extraordinary structures in the first place speaks volumes. These civilizations dared to imagine and work toward something far beyond their immediate needs. Whether it was aligning stones with celestial events, carving stones that symbolized divine power, or creating structures to serve future generations, the intention behind these megaliths reflected a sense of purpose far greater than the individual. At the same time, their incompleteness reveals just how much was riding on societal stability. The workers required to carve, transport, and erect these stones depended on the collective strength of their culture, its leadership, economy, and shared beliefs. When one of those pillars faltered, these massive projects often became unsustainable. Unfinished megaliths also remind us of the limits of ancient technology. While civilizations like the Egyptians and the Incas accomplished feats that still astonish engineers today, there were instances where their tools and techniques simply weren't enough. The immense stones left behind at Baalbek or Yangshan Quarry suggest that at times ambition outpaced the means of construction. Yet this also reflects a timeless truth about humanity. We constantly push the boundaries of what is possible. Even when faced with failure, it's in these bold attempts that we see the spark of innovation, one that would eventually culminate in the incredible achievements that have shaped our world. Reflecting on these long-abandoned projects also raises important questions about what unfinished works future generations might study about us. Today, we embark on massive undertakings just as ancient civilizations did, often tied to our own values, priorities, and advanced technologies. But what happens if these efforts are interrupted, whether by environmental catastrophe, political instability, or resource depletion? Will our skyscrapers, highways, and space exploration programs become the unfinished megaliths of tomorrow? How will future archaeologists interpret these projects, and what might they learn about the challenges we faced in the 21st century? These lessons from unfinished megaliths profoundly shape modern archaeology. Studying these sites isn't just about understanding how stones were carved or transported. It's about piecing together the human stories behind them. Every chisel mark, abandoned ramp, or misplaced block is a clue that helps archaeologists reconstruct the lives, values, and struggles of ancient societies. More importantly, it encourages us to reflect on the shared nature of humanity across time. The same ambitions, limitations, and resilience that define unfinished megaliths also define us. Perhaps in their incompletion, these ancient works tell us more about ourselves than their finished counterparts ever could. Archaeologists and historians play a crucial role in unraveling the enduring mystery of unfinished megaliths. These structures, left incomplete for reasons long lost to time, have become fascinating puzzles that offer unique insights into ancient civilizations. But how do researchers uncover the stories behind these abandoned projects when their builders left us little to no explanation? It's through the tireless work of these experts, armed with advanced tools and techniques, that we're slowly piecing together the truth. One of the most important tools in the archaeologist's toolkit is ground-penetrating radar, or GPR. This technology allows researchers to look beneath the surface of the Earth without digging, using radar waves to detect buried structures, artifacts, or even entire quarry systems. For example, at sites like Baalbek in Lebanon, GPR has helped identify how the massive stones, some weighing over 1,000 tons, were quarried and partially prepared before being abandoned. By studying the layout of the quarries and uncovering surrounding features, archaeologists gain a better understanding of the challenges ancient builders faced and how their efforts might have been interrupted. Another essential method involves analyzing ancient texts, inscriptions, and records, which can provide critical context for these sites. Historians comb through everything from religious texts to administrative records to glean clues about why construction projects may have been abandoned. For instance, during the study of the unfinished pyramid of Sekemkhit in Egypt, researchers found references to the pharaoh's short reign in ancient records, which aligned with the abrupt halt in construction. These texts offer glimpses into the political, social, and environmental conditions of the time, helping archaeologists piece together the broader story surrounding a site. Equally important is the study of tools and marks left behind at these sites. By examining chisel marks, unfinished carvings, and even abandoned tools, researchers can reconstruct the techniques used by ancient builders. In the case of the Aswan Obelisk, for example, archaeologists identified the use of dolerite pounders, hard stone tools used to hammer away at the granite. The patterns of these marks reveal not only the painstaking effort involved, but also the moment when a fatal crack appeared in the stone, halting the project entirely. This kind of analysis bridges the gap between modern researchers and the laborers who worked these stones thousands of years ago, providing a tangible link to their struggles and triumphs. Recent discoveries have also advanced our understanding of unfinished megaliths in dramatic ways. At the Yangshan Quarry in China, researchers uncovered evidence suggesting that the enormous stone blocks still lying in place were abandoned not just because of their size, but potentially due to changes in imperial priorities or unforeseen logistical challenges. Similarly, in Peru, studies at unfinished Inca sites such as Sacsayhuaman have revealed how workers used techniques like shaping stones with precision to create mortarless joints. These findings not only highlight the skill of ancient builders, but also hint at what might have caused these projects to pause, from political instability to resource shortages. What makes this field particularly exciting is that it's constantly evolving. Every new discovery, whether it's an ancient inscription, a hidden quarry, or a newly uncovered tool, has the potential to reshape our understanding of these sites. For example, advancements in remote sensing technology, including the use of drones and LiDAR, are opening up new possibilities for exploring previously inaccessible locations. These tools have already revealed hidden features at well-known sites, as well as entirely new ones buried beneath layers of sediment or vegetation. Each breakthrough brings us closer to answering some of the most compelling questions. Why were these projects started? How were they intended to be completed? And most intriguingly, why were they left unfinished? The work of archaeologists and historians is far from done. These experts continue to dig deeper, both literally and figuratively, using cutting-edge tools and age-old methods of inquiry to decode the mysteries of unfinished megaliths. With every new finding, we inch closer to understanding not only these enigmatic structures, but also the civilizations that created them. And perhaps one day, a single discovery will rewrite everything we thought we knew about their purpose, their builders, and the circumstances that stopped them in their tracks. To truly grasp the scale and complexity of unfinished megaliths, let's dive into some fascinating case studies that bring these ancient projects to life. Each one tells a unique story, offering a glimpse into the ambitions of the past as well as the challenges that ultimately halted their completion. From engineering setbacks to enigmatic mysteries, these megaliths stand as silent witnesses to civilization's grand visions and their unfinished realities. First, we turn to the Aswan Obelisk in Egypt, a project that could have been one of the greatest engineering marvels of the ancient world. Had it been completed, this obelisk would have stood at an awe-inspiring 120 feet tall and weighed an estimated 1,200 tons, making it the largest known obelisk ever attempted. It was intended to be a symbol of divine power, typical of ancient Egyptian monuments, but something went terribly wrong. Midway through the arduous process of carving it directly from the bedrock, a massive crack appeared in the granite. This flaw rendered the entire obelisk unsuitable for use, and the project was abandoned. What makes the Aswan Obelisk so remarkable is the insight it gives us into ancient construction techniques. The unfinished surface still bears the marks of tools, showing how laborers used dolerite pounding stones to chip away the granite with painstaking effort. The size of the obelisk also raises questions about how the Egyptians planned to move such a colossal piece. given that their other completed obelisks, though impressive, are significantly smaller. Was this a case of ambition overtaking practicality, or could it have been an attempt to push the boundaries of what was possible, stopped only by an unavoidable accident? Whatever the reason, the Aswan Obelisk serves as a powerful reminder of the delicate balance between human ingenuity and the natural world. Next, we move to Baalbek in Lebanon, home to some of the largest stones ever worked by human hands. Among them is the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, a massive monolith left partially cut and weighing an astonishing 1,000 tons. Nearby lies an even larger stone, estimated at over 1,600 tons, which dwarfs even modern construction equipment's lifting capabilities. These stones were intended for the Temple of Jupiter, but they never made it to their final destination. Theories about why the stones were abandoned range from logistical failures to sudden interruptions, such as political turmoil or even seismic activity in the region. Yet what makes Baalbek even more tantalizing is the sheer precision with which these stones were cut. How did ancient builders plan to transport such enormous blocks, let alone position them with such accuracy? These questions remain unanswered, leaving Baalbek as one of the greatest megalithic mysteries of all time, shrouded in both awe and speculation. Finally, let's travel to Peru, where the Inca civilization left behind the unfinished works at Ollantaytambo. Perched high in the Andes, this site was part fortress, part ceremonial complex, and part agricultural center. The massive stones at Ollantaytambo, some weighing hundreds of tons, were transported from quarries miles away across rugged terrain and steep inclines. Yet despite their remarkable engineering skills, the work at Ollantaytambo was abruptly stopped, likely due to the Spanish conquest in the 16th century. This invasion disrupted not only the construction process but the cultural and political systems that had driven such ambitious projects in the first place. The unfinished stones, still lying on the paths where they were being transported, tell a vivid story of grand plans suddenly interrupted, leaving us to wonder what might have been had the Inca been able to complete their vision. What unites these unfinished megaliths is a sense of scale and ambition that continues to inspire us today. Looking at these projects, we see not only the incredible ingenuity of ancient civilizations, but also the shared human desire to create something that transcends time. It's no wonder that these megaliths resonate so strongly with contemporary artists, architects, and thinkers. They remind us of both the possibilities and the limitations of human achievement. In the next section, we'll explore how these ancient creations have influenced modern creativity, sparking new ideas and reimagining what's possible in art and design. Unfinished megaliths have not only captivated archaeologists and historians, but also left an indelible mark on popular culture. Their grandeur, mystery, and incompletion make them the perfect canvas for creative minds to project their ideas, from literary works to blockbuster movies and even conspiracy theories. Throughout the years, these enigmatic structures have inspired imaginative interpretations, reshaping how we think about history, human ambition, and the unknown. In literature, unfinished megaliths often serve as powerful metaphors or backdrops for epic tales. They symbolize humanity's struggle against time, nature, and the limits of its own abilities. Writers frequently use these sites to evoke wonder and curiosity in their readers, portraying them as remnants of lost civilizations or portals to ancient secrets. For instance, in fantasy novels, abandoned megaliths are often depicted as mystical locations brimming with hidden power, their incompleteness hinting at interrupted rituals or forgotten knowledge. Authors like J.R.R. Tolkien and H.P. Lovecraft have woven megalithic imagery into their storytelling, creating worlds that feel steeped in history and mythology. The mystery surrounding these sites adds depth and intrigue, allowing readers to imagine what may have driven their creators to abandon such monumental works. The influence of unfinished megaliths extends to the world of film and television, where they frequently appear as symbols of mystery or settings for dramatic and otherworldly events. In science fiction and adventure films, these colossal structures often imply connections to advanced ancient civilizations or even extraterrestrial beings. Movies like Indiana Jones or Prometheus reimagine megalithic sites as clues to lost knowledge or alien interventions, blending archaeology with speculation. Their unfinished state becomes a plot device, an invitation to explore what might have been and to solve the riddles of their creation. These visual mediums harness the imagination sparked by these sites, presenting them as timeless monuments that bridge the gap between the known and the unknown. Even in the age of modern technology, unfinished megaliths remain fertile ground for conspiracy theories and speculative thought. Ideas ranging from ancient astronauts to forgotten advanced technologies often hinge on the perceived impossibility of such structures being carved, transported, or abandoned by the civilizations of their time. The massive stones at Baalbek or the unfinished blocks at Yangshan Quarry, for instance, frequently appear in discussions about lost secrets of engineering or extraterrestrial involvement. These theories, while lacking scientific evidence, reflect a deep-seated fascination with the mystery of megaliths and the human tendency to seek extraordinary explanations for extraordinary achievements. Unfinished megaliths have also inspired countless artists, from painters to digital creators. Their imposing presence and enigmatic nature provide a sense of the sublime, challenging artists to capture their scale and otherworldly beauty. Modern installations and sculptures sometimes echo the forms of ancient megaliths, paying homage to the people who created them while reinterpreting their significance in a contemporary context. Even in video games, these structures often serve as key locations, inviting players to explore their mysteries while immersing themselves in worlds inspired by history. So why do unfinished megaliths continue to captivate our imagination? Even in an age where much of the world has been mapped and explained, perhaps it's their incompleteness that strikes a chord. They represent not just physical monuments but also the enduring mystery of human endeavor, the dreams, obstacles, and untold stories that shape our history. In their halted construction, we see reflections of our own ambitions and limitations, reminding us of the timeless tension between aspiration and reality. And here's the question that lingers: is it their grand scale or their enduring mystery that draws us in? Or is it something deeper, an innate human desire to connect with the past and ponder the unknown? As we explore their unfinished surfaces, are we not, in some way, exploring ourselves and the mysteries we leave behind? Perhaps the fascination with unfinished megaliths lies not only in what they reveal about those who created them, but in what they reveal about our endless search for meaning. Unfinished megaliths stand as timeless monuments to the complexities of human ambition, both the incredible creativity that drives us to attempt the extraordinary and the vulnerabilities that remind us of our limits. They evoke a sense of wonder not only for what was achieved but for what was left undone. These abandoned projects connect us to the past in a profoundly unique way, offering glimpses into the lives, dreams, and challenges of civilizations that came before us. They remind us that history is not just about triumphs, but also about the struggles, missteps, and uncertainties that define the human experience. As we've explored, these megaliths tell stories far beyond their incomplete forms. They expose the limits of ancient technologies, providing rare insight into the tools and methods used by early builders who worked without cranes, modern transportation, or advanced machinery. They also reveal the unpredictability of life, how environmental disasters, political upheavals, or even cultural shifts could bring the boldest visions to an abrupt halt. It's this combination of grandeur and incompletion that leaves us with endless questions. What drove these builders to take on such monumental challenges? What halted their progress, and what might the world have looked like if these projects had been completed? But perhaps the most compelling reason for their allure is the mystery they leave behind. Unfinished megaliths invite us to imagine, to fill in the gaps with our own thoughts about the people who carved these stones, the purpose they served, and the legacy they sought to leave. They spark curiosity, inspire creativity, and remind us that some mysteries are meant to be pondered rather than solved. In many ways, their abandoned state makes them even more profound than the fully realized wonders of the ancient world. They symbolize potential and possibility, standing as testaments not only to what humanity has achieved but to how much more we strive to understand. And while we reflect on the stories of these ancient structures, it's worth asking, what will we leave behind for future generations to ponder? Will our skyscrapers, bridges, and spacefaring ambitions become the unfinished megaliths of tomorrow? Just as we study the marks left behind on these ancient stones, future archaeologists might one day analyze the remnants of our own efforts, piecing together the story of who we were, what we valued, and how we hope to shape the world. The story of unfinished megaliths is far from over. With every new discovery, we gain fresh insights into the ingenuity and aspirations of ancient civilizations. And yet, their mysteries endure, sparking debates, inspiring creativity, and pushing us to reconsider what it means to leave a legacy. If this journey through abandoned monuments has left you wondering, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Why do you think these projects were abandoned? What do they tell us about the people who began them? And what do they say about us today? Leave a comment below and join the conversation. If you've enjoyed exploring this timeless mystery, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more journeys into history's deepest secrets. From ancient wonders to unsolved puzzles, there's always more to uncover. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next adventure.